The day my father called me worthless in front of our entire family was the day I finally stopped trying to earn his love. I wish I could say his words didn't hurt. I wish I could say I was used to them. But some wounds never stop hurting, no matter how many times they're reopened. My name is Sophia Bennett, and for most of my life, I was the disappointment of my family. At least, that's what my father wanted everyone to believe. Growing up, I adored my dad, Richard Bennett. When I was little, I followed him everywhere. If he fixed something in the garage, I sat nearby and watched. If he worked in the garden, I carried his tools. I spent years trying to make him proud. Unfortunately, I had one problem. I wasn't my older brother, Ethan. Ethan was the golden child. Straight A student. Football star. College graduate. The son my father bragged about to everyone. Then there was me. I struggled in school. Not because I wasn't intelligent. Because I learned differently. Reading took me longer. Tests made me nervous. Numbers sometimes blurred together when I was stressed. While Ethan collected awards, I collected criticism. Why can't you be more like your brother? That became my father's favorite question. At first, I tried harder. I studied late into the night. I asked teachers for extra help. I pushed myself until I was exhausted. Nothing seemed good enough. If I got a B, Ethan got an A. If I accomplished something, Ethan had already done something better. Eventually, I stopped competing. There was no point. I would never win. My mother, Claire, tried to protect me. She reminded me that everyone had different strengths. But my father's opinion dominated the house. As the years passed, I slowly became invisible. By 18, I had completely lost confidence. College didn't seem realistic. I barely graduated high school. When everyone else was discussing universities, I was trying to figure out how to survive. Then something unexpected happened. I discovered a talent. Technology. Computers made sense to me in a way textbooks never had. I could spend hours solving technical problems. Building systems. Learning software. Creating things. For the first time, I felt capable. Excited. Valuable. I began teaching myself online. Watching tutorials. Taking free courses. Practicing constantly. Every day I learned something new. My father wasn't impressed. Playing on a computer isn't a career. I ignored him. I kept learning. Kept growing. Kept building. Eventually, I landed a small remote job helping local businesses manage their websites. The pay wasn't amazing. But it was a start. I felt proud of myself. My father laughed. That's not a real job. His words hurt. But I continued anyway. Months became years. I moved into a small apartment. Worked multiple freelance projects. Learned everything I could. Slowly, opportunities started appearing. Better clients. Bigger projects. Higher income. I never told my family how much I was earning. Partly because I valued privacy. Partly because I knew my father wouldn't believe me. Then came my grandmother's 75th birthday. The entire family gathered at a restaurant. Aunts. Uncles. Cousins. Everyone. I almost didn't go. But Grandma had always supported me. I couldn't miss her celebration. The evening started well. People laughed. Shared stories. Took photos. For a while, I actually enjoyed myself. Then my father started drinking. Whenever Richard Bennett drank, trouble followed. At first, he made harmless jokes. Then the jokes became personal. Eventually, he turned his attention toward me. "So, Sophia." My stomach tightened immediately. "How's the little computer hobby going?" Several relatives looked uncomfortable. They knew where this was heading. "It's going fine," I said calmly. He smirked. "Still pretending to have a career." The table fell silent. I felt heat rise in my face. "Dad." "No, really." He laughed. "Tell everyone what you do." My hands clenched beneath the table. I hated being the center of attention. Especially like this. "I work in technology." His smile widened. "You mean you sit at home on a laptop?" A few people laughed awkwardly. I could see my mother becoming anxious. "Richard," she warned. But he ignored her. Then came the comment that changed everything. My father raised his glass and chuckled. "Some kids go to college and become successful." He glanced at Ethan proudly. "Others stay uneducated and hope for miracles." The entire table froze. Even Ethan looked uncomfortable. My heart broke. Not because it was new. Because it wasn't. It was the same message I'd heard my entire life. You're not enough. You're not smart enough. You're not successful enough. You're not worth believing in. For years, I had remained quiet. For years, I had swallowed the pain. For years, I had let him define me. But something inside me finally snapped. I slowly stood from my chair. The restaurant became silent. Every eye turned toward me. My father smirked, expecting me to leave. Instead, I looked directly at him. Then I said the one sentence that would change everything. "Dad, there's something you don't know about me." His smile faded slightly. The room remained silent. "What are you talking about?" I took a deep breath. For years, I had hidden the truth. Not because I was ashamed. Because I didn't need validation. But tonight was different. Tonight, I was done being the family disappointment. I was done letting him tell my story. And when I revealed the secret I had been keeping for nearly 4 years, my father's face went completely pale. The restaurant was so quiet that I could hear the clinking of dishes from tables across the room. Every pair of eyes was fixed on me. My father stared back, confused by my sudden confidence. For years, whenever he mocked me, I stayed silent. I looked down. Changed the subject. Left the room. But not this time. "Dad, there's something you don't know about me." His smirk slowly disappeared. "What are you talking about?" I looked around the table. My grandmother. My mother. My brother. My cousins. All waiting. All wondering. I took a slow breath. "You've spent years calling me uneducated." Nobody spoke. "You've spent years telling people I'm unsuccessful." My father's jaw tightened. "Sophia." "No." I raised my hand. For once, I wasn't going to let him interrupt me. "For years, I've listened while you told everyone I was a failure." My voice trembled slightly. Not from fear. From emotion. The pain of carrying those words for so long. Then I continued. "The truth is, you never bothered to learn who I became." The room remained completely silent. My father laughed nervously. "Oh, here we go." But I could see uncertainty in his eyes now. For the first time, he wasn't in control. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. Then I opened an article. One that had been published 6 months earlier. I handed it across the table. "Read that." He frowned. "What is this?" "Read it." Slowly, he looked down. At first, his expression remained unchanged. Then his eyes widened. Then he read further. And further. The color began draining from his face. "What is this?" he whispered. I folded my arms. "It's an interview." Nobody understood what was happening. My aunt leaned closer. "What interview?" I looked around the table. Then I finally said it. "I'm the founder of Novacore Systems." Several relatives looked confused. My father didn't. Because he recognized the name immediately. Everyone in the technology industry did. Novacore Systems had become one of the fastest-growing cybersecurity companies in the country. We protected major businesses from online threats. Banks, hospitals, corporations, government contractors. 3 years earlier, I had started the company from my apartment. Today, we employed over 200 people. The room went completely silent. My father stared at me. Then at the article. Then back at me. "No." The word barely escaped his mouth. I almost laughed. That had always been his response whenever reality challenged his assumptions. "No." I nodded calmly. "Yes." My brother Ethan suddenly leaned forward. "Wait." His eyes widened. "You're that Sophia Bennett?" I smiled slightly. "Yes." Ethan looked stunned. "I've heard of Novacore." My father slowly lowered the phone. "You own that company?" "I do." His face looked completely blank. Like his brain couldn't process what he was hearing. The truth was, I had never hidden it. The information was public. Articles existed online. Interviews. Business reports. Industry publications. My father simply never paid enough attention to discover it. Because in his mind, I had already been labeled. And once he labeled someone, he stopped seeing them clearly. My grandmother suddenly smiled. A proud smile. "Oh, Sophia." Tears filled her eyes. I knew it. My throat tightened. Out of everyone in the family, Grandma had always believed in me. Even when nobody else did. Especially when nobody else did. My mother looked shocked. Then emotional. Then proud. All at once. "You never told us." I shrugged gently. "You never asked." That answer hit harder than I intended. Because it was true. Nobody had asked. Nobody had cared enough to ask. Except Grandma. And occasionally Ethan. Everyone else simply accepted my father's version of who I was. My father sat silently. Still holding the article. Finally, he looked up. "How much is the company worth?" The question immediately annoyed me. Not because of the number. Because of what it revealed. Even now, he measured success through money. Not character. Not resilience. Not growth. Money. I hesitated. Then answered honestly. The latest valuation was around $120 million. Several people gasped. A glass nearly slipped from someone's hand. My father's eyes widened again. 120 million. The daughter he called worthless had built a company worth more than he would earn in several lifetimes. For a moment, nobody knew what to say. Then something unexpected happened. My father stood up. I expected anger. Defensiveness. Excuses. Instead, he quietly walked out of the restaurant. Everyone watched him leave. The door closed behind him. The silence felt heavy. My mother looked devastated. Ethan looked worried. I felt confused. Part of me wanted to follow him. Part of me didn't. After all these years, why should I chase him? The rest of dinner felt awkward. People kept asking questions about my company, my work, my life. Many seemed genuinely impressed. But something felt missing. Because the person whose approval I had spent my entire life chasing wasn't there. By the time dinner ended, I was emotionally exhausted. I hugged Grandma, promised to visit soon, then headed toward the parking lot. The night air felt cool against my face. I was halfway to my car when I heard footsteps. I turned around. It was Ethan, my older brother. He looked troubled. Sophia. I stopped. What is it? He shoved his hands into his pockets, then looked away. There are things you don't know. A strange feeling settled in my stomach. What things? His expression darkened. For years, Dad knew more about you than you realize. I froze. What? Ethan nodded slowly. I found out recently. Confusion flooded my mind. That made no sense. If my father knew about my success, why would he continue treating me like a failure? Why keep insulting me? Why keep pretending I was worthless? Ethan looked uncomfortable. Like he hated what he was about to say. Then he delivered a sentence that completely changed everything. He didn't mock you because he thought you were unsuccessful. My heartbeat quickened. Then why did he do it? Ethan swallowed hard. His answer hit me like a truck. Because he was terrified of who you had become. Ethan's words echoed in my mind. He was terrified of who you had become. I stared at my brother in disbelief. What does that even mean? The parking lot was nearly empty now. Most of our relatives had already gone home. Ethan looked around before speaking. Let's sit in my car. The seriousness in his voice made my stomach tighten. A few minutes later, we were sitting inside his SUV under the glow of a streetlight. I crossed my arms. Start talking. Ethan sighed heavily. You remember when Dad's business started struggling a few years ago? I nodded. Dad owned a small manufacturing company. Growing up, I had heard him constantly talk about it. For years it had been successful. Then things changed. Competition increased. Contracts disappeared. Money became tighter. But Dad rarely discussed details. His pride wouldn't allow it. What about it? I asked. Ethan looked down. Things were worse than he let everyone believe. A bad feeling settled in my chest. How bad? Very bad. I stayed silent. Then Ethan continued. About 4 years ago, Dad started researching cybersecurity companies. My heart skipped. No. Ethan nodded. Yes. Suddenly, everything felt strange. Because 4 years ago was around the same time Novacore started gaining attention. The same time my company began landing major clients. The same time industry publications started mentioning my name. He found out about you. Yes. I couldn't believe it. For years, I had assumed he knew nothing. That he simply ignored my life. Apparently, I was wrong. When? Ethan looked uncomfortable. Almost from the beginning. The words hit me harder than I expected. Almost from the beginning. That meant my father had watched my success from afar while continuing to publicly call me worthless. Why? The question burned inside me. Did he ever contact me? Ethan shook his head. No. Did he congratulate me? No. Did he tell anyone he was proud of me? Ethan's silence answered the question. Tears threatened to form in my eyes. Not because I needed praise. Because I had spent years wondering if he even cared. Now I was learning that he knew exactly what I had accomplished. And chose silence. Why? I whispered. Ethan rubbed his forehead. Because Dad couldn't handle it. I stared at him. Handle what? The fact that you succeeded without him. The words landed like a punch. For several seconds, I couldn't breathe. Then memories began connecting themselves. All the criticism. The constant comparisons. The insults. The need to control every definition of success. Suddenly, a horrible possibility appeared. Dad never wanted me to be successful. Ethan closed his eyes. I think he wanted you to succeed. I waited. But only in a way he approved of. The truth felt ugly. Painful. And disturbingly accurate. My father respected traditional paths. College. Degrees. Corporate jobs. Titles. Everything I built existed outside that world. I had succeeded without permission. Without validation. Without following his rules. And maybe that was what he couldn't accept. Ethan reached into the center console. Then he pulled out an envelope. My heart immediately sped up. What's that? His expression became serious. Something Dad doesn't know I have. I stared at the envelope. It looked old. Worn. Like it had been handled many times. What is it? Ethan handed it to me. Slowly, I opened it. Inside was a folded letter. The handwriting immediately stopped me cold. It belonged to my father. I recognized it instantly. Confused, I unfolded the pages. Then I began reading. The first line nearly took my breath away. Sophia, I'm writing this because I don't know how to say these things out loud. I froze. My eyes moved to Ethan. What is this? His expression softened. He wrote it 2 years ago. 2 years ago. I looked back down. My hands were shaking now. I continued reading. Every sentence made less sense than the one before it. My father wrote about watching my company grow. About reading articles about me. About seeing interviews online. About feeling proud. Actually proud. I blinked several times. Surely I was misunderstanding. But the words remained there. Black ink on white paper. He was proud. The letter continued. Then came a paragraph that completely shattered me. Every achievement she earns reminds me of how wrong I was. My chest tightened. I kept reading. I spent years telling her she wasn't capable. Now she keeps proving me wrong. I should be happy. Instead, I feel ashamed. Tears filled my eyes. The letter wasn't written by the confident man I knew. It was written by someone full of regret. Someone trapped by his own mistakes. Someone who didn't know how to fix them. The final page hurt the most. The longer I wait to apologize, the harder it becomes. I don't know if she'll ever forgive me. Maybe she shouldn't. I slowly lowered the paper. The car felt completely silent. My vision blurred. He wrote this. Ethan nodded. Yes. Why didn't he send it? A bitter smile appeared on Ethan's face. Because he's Dad. Unfortunately, that answer made sense. Pride. Stubbornness. Fear. Those things had controlled my father for as long as I could remember. I stared at the letter again. 1,000 emotions battled inside me. Anger. Sadness. Confusion. Hope. For years, I had viewed my father as someone who simply didn't care. Now I was seeing a different picture. Not a better picture, but a more complicated one. A man whose pride had become a prison. A man who couldn't admit he was wrong, even when it was destroying his relationship with his daughter. Suddenly my phone rang. The screen displayed my mother's name. I answered immediately. Mom. Her voice sounded panicked. Sophia, where are you? My heart jumped. Why? There was a pause. Then she said words that made my blood run cold. Your father collapsed after leaving the restaurant. Everything inside me froze. What? My mother was crying now. They took him to the hospital. I felt the world tilt beneath me. Ethan's face went pale as he listened. I gripped the phone tighter. Mom, what's happening? The answer came through her tears. The doctors think it might be his heart. The doctors think it might be his heart. For a moment, I couldn't move. The words echoed inside my head while my mother cried on the other end of the phone. My father. The man who had spent years making me feel small. The man who had mocked me in front of everyone just hours ago. The man I had spent most of my life trying, and failing, to impress. Now he was lying in a hospital bed. Possibly fighting for his life. Which hospital? I asked. My voice sounded distant, even to me. Mom told me the name. I'll be there soon. The call ended. Ethan and I exchanged a look. Neither of us said a word. We simply started the car and drove. The entire trip felt unreal. Streetlights blurred past the windows. My thoughts raced. Part of me was still angry. Part of me was hurt. But beneath everything else was fear. Because no matter how complicated our relationship had become, Richard Bennett was still my father. And I wasn't ready to lose him. Not like this. Not with so many things left unsaid. When we arrived at the hospital, Mom was waiting in the emergency department. The moment she saw us, she ran forward and hugged me. She looked terrified. I thought I lost him. I wrapped my arms around her. For years, I had kept my distance from my family. Yet standing there, I realized how much pain we had all been carrying. A doctor soon approached. He suffered a mild heart attack. My stomach dropped. But he's stable now. Relief washed through all of us. The doctor explained that stress had likely contributed to the episode. Years of pressure. Years of worry. Years of refusing to slow down. Eventually, the body demanded a price. Can we see him? Mom asked. The doctor nodded. One at a time. Mom went first. Then Ethan. I waited alone in the hallway. The letter remained in my purse. I kept thinking about the words my father had written. Every achievement she earns reminds me of how wrong I was. For years, I thought he saw me as a failure. Now I wasn't so sure. Maybe the truth was even sadder. Maybe he saw me as proof of his own mistakes. About an hour later, Ethan stepped out. He's asking for you. My chest tightened. I slowly walked toward the room. For the first time in my life, I felt nervous about seeing my father. The door stood slightly open. I pushed it gently. Inside, machines beeped softly. My father looked older than I remembered. Smaller somehow. The powerful presence that had dominated every room for years seemed diminished. When he saw me, his eyes filled with emotion. Neither of us spoke immediately. I stepped closer. Hi, Dad. His voice came out rough. Hi, sweetheart. The word nearly broke me. Sweetheart. He hadn't called me that since I was a child. For several seconds, silence filled the room. Then he noticed the envelope in my hand. His eyes widened. "Ethan gave you that?" I nodded. A look of embarrassment crossed his face. "I never meant for you to read it." I almost laughed. That sounded exactly like him. Writing the truth. Then hiding it. I did read it. He looked away. Ashamed. For the first time in my life, my father seemed unable to meet my eyes. "Dad." He slowly looked back. "Why?" His forehead creased. "Why what? Why spend years putting me down?" The question hung between us. Raw. Painful. Necessary. My father closed his eyes. For a moment, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he spoke. And what he said changed everything. "Because I saw myself in you." I stared at him. Confused. "What?" A sad smile appeared on his face. "When I was young, my father treated me exactly the way I treated you." The room suddenly felt very quiet. I had never heard him talk about his childhood. Not once. My father believed education was everything. His voice trembled. "I struggled in school too." I blinked. That surprised me. Growing up, Dad always acted as though academic success came naturally. As a kid, I constantly felt inadequate. He swallowed hard. No matter what I achieved, it wasn't enough. A painful realization began forming. My father wasn't describing me. He was describing himself. Then he said something I'll never forget. "I spent my entire life trying to prove my father wrong." Tears appeared in his eyes. And without realizing it, I became him. The words hit me like a wave. Years of resentment suddenly collided with understanding. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Understanding. My father wasn't born cruel. He was wounded. And instead of healing those wounds, he passed them down. The way many people do. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. "You built everything on your own." I stayed silent. "You succeeded where I failed." His voice cracked. "And instead of celebrating you, I felt threatened." The honesty shocked me. I never expected him to admit that. Especially not out loud. "I was wrong, Sophia." Fresh tears slid down his face. I was so wrong. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Years of pain stood between us. Years of missed opportunities. Years of words that couldn't be taken back. Then I quietly asked the question that had haunted me for years. "Did you ever love me?" The instant the words left my mouth, his face crumpled. Like I'd struck him. "Sophia." His voice broke completely. "I never stopped loving you." A tear rolled down his cheek. Not for a single day. I felt my own tears fall. Because despite everything, a part of me had always needed to hear those words. Needed confirmation. Needed proof. My father reached for my hand. His grip was weak. But sincere. Then he whispered something that made my heart stop. "There's something else you need to know." I frowned. "What is it?" His eyes filled with fear. Real fear. The kind I had never seen before. Then he said the words that changed everything. "The company, it's bankrupt." My breath caught. He continued. "And someone stole nearly everything we had." And someone stole nearly everything we had. For a moment, I thought I had misheard him. I stared at my father from beside the hospital bed. "What?" His face was pale. Exhausted. Ashamed. The company is gone, Sophia. The word sounded painful for him to say. Like every sentence cost him a piece of his pride. I pulled a chair closer. What happened? My father looked toward the window. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then he slowly answered. I trusted the wrong person. A bad feeling settled in my stomach. Who? His jaw tightened. The person I planned to leave the business to. I immediately thought of Ethan. But my father shook his head before I could ask. Not your brother. Relief flashed across my face. Then confusion followed. If not Ethan, then who? My father swallowed hard. My business partner. The room fell silent. I vaguely remembered hearing his name over the years. Gregory Walsh. Dad had known him for almost 20 years. They attended family events together. Shared holidays. Vacationed together. Dad trusted him completely. Or at least he had. What did he do? I asked. My father closed his eyes. He stole from us. The pain in his voice was obvious. Months earlier, Gregory had convinced my father to approve several major investments. New contracts. Equipment purchases. Business expansions. Everything looked legitimate. Everything appeared profitable. But it was all a lie. By the time my father realized what was happening, millions of dollars had disappeared. Accounts were empty. Debt had piled up. Clients had vanished. The company collapsed. I listened in stunned silence. This wasn't just business failure. It was betrayal. The kind of betrayal that destroys lives. Why didn't you tell us? My father laughed bitterly. Because I was embarrassed. That word again. Embarrassed. Ashamed. Afraid. It seemed to be the language my family spoke best. My mother entered the room quietly. She looked exhausted. When she realized what we were discussing, tears appeared in her eyes. He tried to handle it alone. Dad looked away. I thought I could fix it. But he couldn't. And the stress eventually broke him. Literally. The heart attack wasn't just about business. It was about years of carrying everything alone. Trying to appear strong. Trying to appear successful. Trying to pretend everything was under control. When it wasn't. Suddenly, another memory surfaced. The insults. The criticism. The constant attacks directed at me. An uncomfortable possibility formed in my mind. Dad. He looked at me. Was that why? His forehead creased. Why what? Why you kept putting me down? The room became quiet. His expression answered before his words did. Slowly, he nodded. The truth hurt. But I needed to hear it. When Novacor started growing, I was proud. He spoke carefully. But I was also terrified. I stayed silent. My business was failing. His voice cracked. Your business was succeeding. A tear rolled down his cheek. Every article about you reminded me of everything I was losing. For years, I had believed my father's insults came from disappointment. Now I understood something different. They came from insecurity. That didn't excuse them. But it explained them. I wasn't angry at you. His voice trembled. I was angry at myself. The room felt heavy. My mother sat beside him and gently took his hand. For the first time, I saw them not as parents, but as people. Flawed people. People capable of making terrible mistakes. People carrying pain they didn't know how to handle. Then my father looked directly at me. And what he said next surprised everyone. "I need your help." I blinked. What? His pride had always prevented him from asking for help. Always. Yet here he was. "I don't know what to do anymore." The admission seemed to break something inside him. Years of pretending. Years of acting strong. Gone. Just honesty. Raw and painful. I sat quietly for a moment. Then I asked the obvious question. "How bad is it?" My father looked toward my mother. Then back at me. The answer came out barely above a whisper. "We might lose the house." The words hit hard. The house. My childhood home. The place where all my memories lived. Good and bad. I looked at my mother. Fresh tears rolled down her face. The reality was finally becoming clear. This wasn't just a business problem. My parents were facing financial disaster. For a few moments, nobody spoke. Then my father said something I never expected to hear. "If you walk away, I'll understand." I frowned. "What?" He swallowed hard. "After everything I've done to you." His voice broke. "I don't have the right to ask anything from you." The room became silent. My father looked smaller than I had ever seen him. Not physically. Emotionally. The man who once seemed larger than life now looked vulnerable. Human. Broken. And suddenly I remembered something. The little girl who followed him around the garage. The little girl who wanted nothing more than his approval. Despite everything, that girl still existed somewhere inside me. I took a deep breath. Then I stood. My father looked confused. "So that's it?" he asked quietly. I smiled slightly. "No." His eyes widened. I walked to the hospital room window and looked out at the city lights. Then I turned back toward him. "For years, you thought I was uneducated." He lowered his eyes. "You thought I was worthless." A tear rolled down his cheek. I continued. "You never understood what I was building." The room remained silent. Then I smiled. A calm, confident smile. The same smile I wore during major business negotiations. The same smile I wore when facing impossible challenges. The same smile that helped build a company worth over $100 million. "Dad." He looked up. "You aren't facing this alone anymore." Confusion appeared on his face. Then hope. Then disbelief. "What are you saying?" I opened my phone. Dialed a number. And when the person answered, I spoke 4 words that left everyone in the room stunned. "Launch the investigation immediately." My father stared at me. "What investigation?" I looked directly at him. Then revealed the truth. The truth that would change everything. "I already know who stole your company." "I already know who stole your company." The hospital room went completely silent. My father stared at me. My mother looked confused. Even Ethan, who had just walked back into the room, froze in the doorway. "What do you mean?" Dad asked. I took a slow breath. 3 months ago, one of our cybersecurity analysts noticed unusual financial activity involving several businesses. My father frowned. I continued. "One of those businesses was yours." His eyes widened. "You knew." I knew something was wrong. The truth was, Novacore didn't just protect companies from hackers. We also helped uncover financial fraud. When my team found suspicious transactions connected to Gregory Walsh, they launched a quiet investigation. At the time, I had no idea my father's company was involved. Not until recently. We followed the money. My father looked stunned. And I met his gaze. Gregory moved millions through shell companies. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. He planned everything. I nodded. The contracts were fake. The investors were fake. The expansion projects were fake. Every word made my father look sicker. Because every word confirmed the truth. His best friend had spent years planning to betray him. Then I smiled slightly. But Gregory made one mistake. What? He underestimated people smarter than him. For the first time all evening, Ethan laughed. A real laugh. The kind we hadn't heard in years. I pulled up a document on my phone. The evidence has already been turned over to federal investigators. My father's eyes widened. You did that? I nodded. 2 weeks ago. Tears filled his eyes. Not because of the investigation. Because for the first time, he understood something important. The daughter he spent years underestimating had become the person capable of saving him. Not through luck. Not through miracles. Through intelligence. Through hard work. Through determination. Everything he once claimed she lacked. My father covered his face with his hands. Then he started crying. Not quietly. Not politely. He sobbed. The strong man who never showed weakness finally broke. I'm sorry. His voice cracked. I'm so sorry, Sophia. The room fell silent. Years of regret poured out of him. I spent so much time judging you. Fresh tears rolled down his cheeks. I never saw who you really were. I felt my own eyes fill. Because despite everything, this was all I had ever wanted. Not praise. Not money. Not recognition. Just to be seen. To be understood. My father looked directly at me. And then he said the words I had dreamed of hearing since childhood. You are the smartest person in this family. I laughed through my tears. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. The girl labeled uneducated and worthless. The girl who struggled in school. The girl who was constantly compared to everyone else. She had become the one holding the family together. A few weeks later, Gregory Walsh was arrested. The investigation uncovered years of fraud. Millions of dollars were recovered. Not all of it. But enough. Enough to save my parents' home. Enough to prevent complete financial ruin. Enough to give them a second chance. When my father was finally discharged from the hospital, something changed between us. Not overnight. Not magically. Trust takes time to rebuild. But for the first time, both of us were trying. Really trying. Sometimes he called just to ask how I was doing. Sometimes he asked questions about my company. Sometimes he simply listened. And slowly, we learned how to be father and daughter again. One afternoon, several months later, Dad asked me to meet him at my childhood home. When I arrived, he was standing in the garage. The same garage where I had followed him around as a little girl. The same garage where I had spent years trying to earn his approval. I smiled. What are you doing out here? He looked nervous. Actually nervous. Which immediately made me suspicious. Then he handed me a small wooden box. What is this? Open it. I carefully lifted the lid. Inside was a collection of old photographs. My breath caught. Photos of me. Dozens of them. As a child. As a teenager. School pictures. Birthday pictures. Family vacations. Every stage of my life. Confused, I looked up. Dad. His eyes were already wet. I kept everyone. My throat tightened. Every photo. Every achievement. Every memory. Even during the years when he acted disappointed. Even during the years when we barely spoke. He had kept them all. Then he handed me something else. A folded piece of paper. I immediately recognized the handwriting. His. Another letter. But this one wasn't hidden. This one was meant to be read. I opened it. The first sentence instantly made me cry. Sophia, for years I told you who I thought you were. I never stopped long enough to discover who you really were. Tears blurred the words. I kept reading. You are stronger than me. Braver than me. Kinder than me. Then came the final line. The line that healed a wound I had carried for most of my life. If I had one chance to do it all over again, I would spend every day telling you how proud I am to be your father. I couldn't hold back anymore. I hugged him. And for the first time since I was a little girl, he hugged me back without hesitation. Without pride. Without walls. Without conditions. Just love. A year later, Novacor opened a new headquarters. The biggest milestone in our company's history. Hundreds of employees attended the opening ceremony. Reporters. Investors. Business leaders. Friends. Family. When it was time for speeches, I stepped onto the stage. The crowd applauded. Then I noticed my father sitting in the front row. Smiling. Actually smiling. Not the forced smile of someone pretending. The proud smile of a father. I finished my speech. The audience stood and cheered. As I stepped off the stage, my father approached me. There were tears in his eyes. Again. At this point, neither of us cared. He hugged me and whispered. You proved me wrong. I smiled. Then gently shook my head. No, Dad. He looked confused. I squeezed his hand. I didn't prove you wrong. His eyes searched mine. I smiled through my tears. I finally showed you who I really was. And for the first time in my life, he truly saw me. The end. Red Heart.